a meeting with Avraham several times when I was in Israel, spending full days with him. And I'm telling you, we're in for a treat today to listen to this man and all the valuable wisdom that he has. And I hope he pushes it all on us. So, Avraham, with that, the phone is yours.
Just very quickly, I'm going to be managing the call. My name's Eka Adler. If you have any questions, you can feel free to chat at me. I'm going to mute everyone except for the speaker, and then when it comes time for questions and answers at the end, you'll be able to unmute yourself if you're logged in from a computer with the little microphone in your left-hand corner. And if you're on a dial-in phone, with *6 to unmute yourself. And there's little options to raise your hand or send a chat if you want to send in an anonymous question, and I'll be able to read it off for you. But from here on out, I'm going to be muting everybody except for Avraham Tenne.
Okay, first of all, Mark, thank you very much for your nice and warm words. And I think I don't have anything to add anymore. It means you said everything. But let me just brief you on the water issues in Israel these days. And things are changing. And things are changing in Israel because, first of all, because of climate change. Even your president doesn't like the word climate change, but it's still there. And we suffer from it in Israel these days. And this year was really a drought year. And even in the beginning, we thought that we are going to have a very nice rainy year, but it didn't happen. And this year, we lost a huge amount of water that we didn't receive from heaven. So we need to do things, and we cannot rely anymore on what we established till now. It means we do have desalination, we do have a large-scale desalination program that we managed to build, but still we are short of water, mainly in the northern part of Israel and the southern part of Israel. And this is something that there is a lot of actions that should be done in the near future in order to be able to bring more water to these areas in the next few years. But let's start from the beginning. Israel, as a desert, has a huge gap between the demand and the resources, the natural resources. And this gap is only growing. And if this gap was about 1 to 1.1 billion cubic meter a year, because of growth of population, a growth of index of living, and in the other end, because of the climate change, we are getting less and less precipitation in our area. So the gap is only growing. And if we are looking into the far future, let's say 2050, we at that time will have a gap of more than 3 billion cubic meter per year. So the amount of rain that we are getting, which today it's about 1.2 billion, will go down to about 1 billion, and the demand will raise to almost 4 billion cubic meter per year. So what are we doing? So we are doing, first of all, we are doing what we did in the last 20, 30 years. First of all, we are saving water. We are saving water, and we are continuing to save water all the time, teaching our children to save water, repairing our leakage in the pipes, building up systems that are able to let us know when the leakage starts and exactly where the leakage starts, so we are able to send teams there to repair the piping system. We are doing a lot of work on the tariff of water. It means the people in Israel are paying the real price of water, and it will continue this way because this is the basis for all the investment that we are doing in our water sector. And we are also doing a lot of work regarding irrigation. Today, about 95% of our gardening, of our private gardening and public gardening are drip irrigation. In the agriculture, it's about 70 to 75% of drip irrigation. And we want to increase it because drip irrigation is saving a lot of water that is wasted because of evaporation. So drip irrigation is something that we think that at the end, in this next 30 years, probably most of the agriculture will be with drip irrigation in Israel. And the second thing that we are doing is the water reuse. Israel today is reusing about 86% of our water. But we are still missing many reservoirs. It means we need more reservoirs. This is a huge, important part of what the JNF is doing in Israel. And JNF built so many reservoirs of effluent, of treated wastewater that we are using for agriculture, but we need more. And this, I believe, is something for you to look into it and assist Israel with more reservoirs to come. But we want to reach 90%. And the last 4% is very difficult, it's very challenging to reach the last 4% of wastewater treatment to agriculture. This is the maximum we can treat. By the way, in the United States, in all of the United States, you are reusing about 1%. Remember this number, about 1% of the wastewater in the United States is reused. So there is so much to do in the United States on this phenomena to try and help and solve problems of water shortage in many states there. In California, there are now about 10%, 12% of water reuse. And again, there is so much more to do in this area. So water reuse is very important. It means increasing the capacity of the wastewater treatment plants. And we are doing it because the amount of population is growing in Israel. The population growth in Israel is about 1.8%, probably the largest number in the Western world, 1.8%. By the way, I was last week in Botswana, and they are close to us, they are 1.7% in Botswana. But Israel is about 25 times shorter in the land that we have compared to Botswana. And we have 8 million people. Botswana is only 2.2 million people. So all the problems there are smaller. There are still problems, but smaller. And Israel, which is a very crowded country, needs to do so much in order to build more and more wastewater treatment plants and reuse water, project of reuse water, which is reservoirs and pumping stations and piping to bring this water into the fields. So water reuse, again, is a very important phenomenon. And again, we need to increase the amount of desalination we are doing in Israel. For the time being, we are desalinating in Israel altogether about 650 million cubic meter of seawater, about 600 seawater, and about 70 million is brackish water desalination. This year, we asked the desalination companies to increase the capacity from their plants. It means they are going to give us another 75 million cubic meter per year above the amount that is written in the contract, because we are very short of water. And because of the phenomena of the climate change, the situation of the Sea of Galilee is very poor. We are probably in the lowest elevation of water ever measured in Israel. We started to measure water in 1932, and this is the lowest elevation we ever reached in the Sea of Galilee. And we are even planning to send desalinated water from the western part of Israel into the Sea of Galilee, which is crazy. We never thought we will need to reach such a situation that we are going to send water into the Sea of Galilee. And we are going to build 2 new desalination projects, large-scale desalination projects. The first one is going to be in the Galilee, in the western Galil, near Akko and Aria. We are going to build a plant which is going to be probably about 100 million cubic meter per year, maybe more. And we are probably going to publish this tender in 2018. This year, we will publish this tender. And beside that, we are going to build another large-scale desalination plant in the center of Israel, near the plant of Sorek. I don't know how many of you visited there, but at least some of you visited the Sorek plant. We are going to build a new project there of about 150 million cubic meters per year, and probably this tender will also be published during 2018, beginning of 2019, in order to be able to deal with the shortage of water that we are going to face in the next 5 to 10 years. So this is just where we are now and what we are going to do. And all of that, we have to remember that we are still supplying water to the Palestinians and to Jordan, and these amounts are only increasing. It means Palestinians and Jordan will get more and more water from Israel. This is the situation now. And the last thing what I want is to remind you a very interesting project that we are involved in, and myself, I'm also involved there because I am a consultant to this project, which is the Red Dead project, means bringing water from the Red Sea into Jordan, desalinating about 80 million cubic meter per year, and sending the concentrate together with some seawater into the Dead Sea in order to start and stopping the decrease of the elevation in the Dead Sea, which is a part of also an ecological project. Now, this project is very important for the relationship between Israel and Jordan, but it's also very important for the population. I mean, Jordan and Israel will divide the desalinated water 50% each. The water to Israel will go to the Arava, to the southern part of the Israeli Negev, and the water to Jordan will go to Aqaba, and part of it will go to Amman, the capital of Jordan. Now, this is only the first project, the pilot project of this large, what we called a Red Dead project. And at the end, we believe in about 15 years from now, we will have desalination units that will desalinate up to 900 million cubic meter per year. About 700 million will go to Jordan, about 100 million to Israel, and 100 million to the Palestinians, and about 1 billion will go to the Dead Sea, and this will stop the reduction of the elevation of the Dead Sea. In between, because there is a difference of elevation between the Red Sea and the Dead Sea of about 400 meters, we will also produce energy, hydroelectric energy. We will build hydroelectric power stations there to supply electricity mainly to Jordan. So this is the big project that we are going to face now in Israel in the next few years. Now I'm ready to questions if there are.
Hello, Shalom.
Shalom.
Hi.
Can you comment on what's happening with the water situation in Gaza?
Who's speaking? Eka, ask them who is speaking.
Robert Keene.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Robert. Now, the situation of water in Gaza is bad. What they're doing there is no water management in Gaza. people are drilling water from the aquifer with no control, and the aquifer is damaged. It means seawater is introduced into it, and also untreated wastewater goes into this aquifer, and people are pumping water and drinking this water. They do have very few small desalination units, but it's not enough. It means they have almost no drinking water there. Israel is supplying to Gaza today about 10 million cubic meter, and there is now an agreement that Israel will supply another 10 million cubic meter per year. The big problem of the other 10 million is that the Gaza people should build another pipeline of about 400 to 500 meters, and they are not doing it, so they cannot get the water from Israel. And what they are doing, they are investing all what they can into tunneling instead of water piping. So this is part of what the immediate situation in Gaza. There is a plan to build a large-scale desalination plant in Gaza because Gaza is next to the sea. They have the raw material. But there is a big problem on that because they don't have the money to do it. Again, because most of the money they are getting, most of the funds they are getting is invested in things that are not for the benefit of the population. So this is the situation of the water in Gaza these days.
Toda.
Okay.
Avraham, it's Mark. I have a question for you. The Red to Dead project, I'm a little confused on the timeline with building the desal plant and splitting up the water. When is all that happening again?
Okay, so according to the planning, the final tender was supposed to be published about 6 months ago. But you all probably know that there was a big problem, diplomatic problem between Israel and Jordan, which is now being solved very quietly, is now being solved. And I believe that the tender will be published in the next few months. This is the final tender because we are already after publishing a pre-qualification. We have a short list of 5 joint ventures that will compete in the final tender, and the company that will win the tender will start design and building the tender probably next year. And we believe that in 4 years from now, this is our plan, in 4 years from now, we will probably start getting desalinated water in the area.
Okay.
Can I ask another question about this desalination plant? I'm confused with the numbers, Avraham. You
Yes.
said that this desalination plant will produce about 900,000 cubic meters.
Yes, this is the final stage of the project. In 15 years from now, the first stage is up to 80 million cubic meter per year.
Okay. But then you said that, let's say at the final stage, you said 700 million will be supplied to Jordan, 100 to Israel, and then you said 1 million to the Dead Sea. That's where I got confused.
100.
Palestinians.
100.
700 to Jordan, million cubic.
You see, we're listening.
So 100, you are going to have an examination later, so you must listen. 700 to Jordan, 100 to Israel, 100 to Palestinians. This is the drinking water quality. The concentrate, which is going to be about 1 to 1.1 billion cubic meter per year, will go to the Dead Sea to stop the decreasing of the elevation. It means this is an amount which is bigger than the natural evaporation of the Dead Sea. So it will not only stop decreasing the elevation, it will start to increase the elevation of the Dead Sea for the next years to come.
Are there other solutions for the Dead Sea, for the horrible situation of the Dead Sea?
Yes, there are some other offers or solutions from the Mediterranean to the Dead Sea. And we are looking into it in a way. The government is looking into these solutions, and maybe there will be a combination between the Red Dead project and some other solutions in the future.
Question, Bob Shurkoff in Baltimore. Along the same line of thinking, what's the projected start time for construction on the two additional desal plants you mentioned, one in Akko and one near Sorek?
Usually it takes about 2 years between publishing the tender and starting the construction. So if we'll publish the tender in the next year or so, the construction will start probably in 2020, 2021, and we'll get water in 2023. This is probably where we are going to be with these two projects.
And what about the garbage situation coming out of Gaza? I think I saw something that it's now affecting the intake at Sorek.
Okay, it's not Sorek, it's affecting Ashkelon. Sorek is a little bit to the north. But fortunately for us, the membranes, the RO technology, can deal with this kind of contamination. But of course, Gaza people will need to operate a wastewater treatment plant, not because we don't want them to damage our intakes, but also because they are damaging their own aquifer. So they will need to do something. And by the way, only last week they started up a new wastewater treatment plant, one of the 2 or 3 that need to be built. One is now starting up, still have problems of electricity to operate it, but it's starting up.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, Avraham. This is Rich Hacker in Wisconsin.
Yeah, okay.
Two questions about the Gaza area. First of all, is the fact that they are taking so much water out of their aquifer negatively affecting the drilling operations and the search for water in the Halutza area? Right now, we've already had a couple of drillings there, and the water is too brackish. And now we've invested some more money to drill again. And I suspect that we're probably going to get brackish water again, but who knows? That remains to be seen. But if the people in Gaza are drilling so much that they're affecting their aquifer, it seems to me that it would be affecting negatively the people in Halutza as well.
It can happen. It can happen. It's not very much connected, but it can happen. It means that it can be a kind of a situation that because of the uncontrolled drills that they have in Gaza, it will affect in a way the aquifer, our aquifer, which is close there. But this is something we are trying to do something about. I don't think we have today too many tools to deal with it.
Pictures on.
Yeah,
You'll be
okay.
in the picture.
Okay, on my second question then, regards the Egyptians. Are they doing anything to possibly build a desalinization plant near the Sinai-Gaza border and sell water to the Halutza area, to the Israelis?
I don't think so. By the way, it's easier for us to bring water from our desalination units instead of bringing water to Halutza from the Egyptians. The Egyptians, for the time being, are not going to desalination plants. They will need to do it. Today, Egypt is depending mainly on the Nile. But you probably know that in the Nile there is a huge debate between the Egyptians that are in the end of the river and 13, 14 countries that are in the origin of the Nile, and they want more water than what they are getting. Egypt is taking about 90% of the Nile, and all the rest have only 10%. So probably Egypt will need to give up some water from the Nile, and they will need to go into desalination. When it will happen, I don't know, but probably in the next few years they will need to do something. again, to deal with Gaza or to deal with Halutza or other things, Egypt is not running very quickly to do something about it.
Okay, so one more quick question. Then you made a comment. It's easier for you to bring the water down from your own desalinization plants than to bring it in from Egyptian plants or maybe even a Gaza plant?
We have the piping system. We have the water. So we have the solution for Halutza. And even in Halutza, when the water, the brackish water is salty, we can build a local small brackish water desalination plant to deal with it. It means we have all what is needed to do it. Now the decision makers need to get some decisions in order to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Avraham, I have another question. It's Mark. So we were told recently that the supply of water to the farmers for the agricultural industry is being cut by about 18% for the year. So what are they going to do to try to make that up?
Look, the big problem is in the northern part of Israel. And in the northern part, if the government of Israel would get the right decisions 5-6 years ago, we would probably have now another desalination plant in the north, and no problem was there. But the decision they didn't make such a decision, and only now they are starting to push this project. So for the time being, there is a problem, and the next year or two will continue to be drought years. We will be in a very bad situation for the farmers, but not only that. If the situation will continue, we can be in a situation that in the northern part of Israel, we will not have enough drinking water. This is the situation at the northern part because of the situation of the Sea of Galilee. So this is where we are. We are trying to bring some piping from the center of Israel, to bring some piping systems to the northern part of Israel to try and bring water from the central of Israel to the north. But again, this also takes time, and it can take at least 2-3 years to do it.
Okay. But so then the farmers will be buying desal water and using that, correct?
The farmers are buying water. There is no difference between the water because the desalinated water goes into the national grid and it's mixed with all other means of water. So the farmers are getting water, part of it from local boreholes or drills, and part of it from the national grid. And they are using it, but in this area, they don't have too much desalinated water, but other means of water.
Okay, thank you.
It's Bob Cherkoff in Baltimore again. Is there a sense of urgency in the government to get these additional facilities built?
Today, there is a sense of urgency. You should know that governments are working only after crisis. If they don't have a crisis, they don't get a decision. Look at California, the same thing. When the crisis will come, they will get a decision to solve the problem. Because there is no crisis yet. Nothing happened, and this was the situation in the last few years in the northern part of Israel. We had water, we thought that we'll have enough and we'll have rain and everything will be okay, but it didn't work this way. So now it's an urgency, and now everybody is trying to push very quickly to start these projects.
You're so right. It's crisis management, reactive government here too.
Yeah, it's everywhere in the world, by the way. It's not an Israeli patent or an American patent. It goes everywhere. Look what's going on in South Africa, for example, where in Cape Town, a city that lies next to oceans, they have so many oceans around them, and no desalination and no water. So it's crazy. It's crazy. So, as I said, crisis and then governmental decisions, by the way, because of a very large crisis that we had in the end of the 90s. We got a decision to go into large-scale in Israel.
Avram, this is Rich Hacker again. How long does it take? How long does it take to build a fairly good-sized reservoir like the one that's up in Gonan, up in the Upper Galilee? How long does it take from time to say go and time to when it's in operation?
Look, the construction itself shouldn't take more than 1.5 or 2 years. That's all. The big problem is the statutory process, which takes a huge time in Israel, almost like in California. And this is the main issue, the statutory part, because whenever you have the building permit, then in 1.5, 2 years, you have a reservoir. That's why you should start the statutory process to define the locations and get all the permits in order to be able to build it in time.
Yeah, but it seems to me, you're saying, and everybody seems to realize, it's an emergency. There are no emergency shortcuts that can be taken for some of these regulations to speed some of this up?
Let me again give you an example in California. The Carlsbad project, the desalination project near San Diego, and in San Diego you don't have enough drinking water. Building permit took more than 15 years to get the building permit. That means the emergency is there, but the NGOs are also there. And this is a democratic area in a democratic country, and it takes its time. There are no shortcuts. Unfortunately, there are no shortcuts in this matter.
Okay.
Cut the water supply by 17%. The people that are going to suffer are the farmers and anything that the farmers send out of the country.
Toby,
It's
we
not
didn't
just going to be cutting water.
Toby, we didn't hear you. You have to repeat your question.
Can you repeat, please?
Okay, if you cut the water by 17%, not the farmers are going to suffer. Export in Israel is going to suffer. Everybody's going to suffer. So how can you cut the farmers 17% water?
You are cutting down water because you don't have the water. It means you cannot give something that you don't have. And that's why you need to cut down. And the question is, where are you going to cut down? Are you going to cut down water from the cities, or you are going to cut down agriculture? And usually the solution, it was always the solution to cut down the quota from agriculture and not to cut down drinking water from the citizens.
But if you cut down agriculture, it's going to cut export and everything else. And everybody will suffer, not only the farmers.
Absolutely. When you don't have water, you suffer. Absolutely. Yeah, that's the situation. Yeah.
I think it's a poor finding for the situation.
Consumption. It's not just exports, it's also domestic consumption. There'll be less available.
Yeah, it's everybody, when you cut down water for agriculture, everybody is suffering. But this is the situation. This is not something that was planned to do. It means we didn't plan, or the government didn't plan to cut down the water from agriculture. They thought that everything will be okay. The situation today is that they understand that nothing is okay, and they should go and build a new desalination plant, which they had to do it, as I said, 5-6 years ago. But this is the situation, crisis, and then solutions.
Right, in action.
Yeah.
Avram, this is Rich Hacker again. Going back to the Halutza area, if the drillings that we're doing now find enough water to justify it, how much do you think? What's a ballpark estimate of what that small desalinization plant cost?
I don't know the numbers, so I cannot say something about it, but usually it's something that goes between few $1 million to 10, 20, $30 million, depend of the amount of water you need to desalinate there and the amount of the contamination or the concentration of salts that you have there. So, but this is the situation. And again, probably the people in the water authority will compare either to build a desalination plant or to build another pipe to bring water from the national grid or from the piping systems that are about 20, 30 kilometers from there to bring it to Haluza. This is something that's looking into the cost-best effective solution for this matter. But the water is there. We have the means to do it.
All right, thanks.
Okay.
Any other questions?
That's it?
Yeah?
All right. Well, if there's no other questions, Avraham, I mean, let me ask you this one more question. What do you think, besides we need more reservoirs from JNF, is there anything else, any other way that you see either JNF as a national organization or getting down to just us as task force people that we can do to help?
I suggest
Right.
you will sit with the planning people in the water authority, because they will be able to tell you where do they need this kind of reservoirs. There is some divisions, the planning division and another division that deals with the water reuse, that will probably be able to give you at least the directions where these reservoirs are needed and what size of reservoirs is needed there. They have probably the answers for these questions.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. So if there's no other questions, we want to all thank you very much for taking your time, Avraham. It's, as usual, it's very informative listening to you, and thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you all. And I really admire all of you for going into this interesting in the water situation. And whenever you need me, I'm there.
Thank you.
Wait, Eka, the next call is?
The next call is scheduled for May 14th. It's also going to be a Zoom call. It is, again, from 11 to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be sending out the reminders once again through the email, RSVP, through the link so that you can get in all the call information. And I know a lot of people have been asking us this. Please do feel free to forward on the original email to anyone you may think is interested in participating in these types of calls. We do have a very large list we're sending this out to, but we're more than happy to share it. We are looking into the option of possibly publicizing this via social media now as well, to try and get more people into our system and interested in hearing the topics that we discuss on these calls.
Great. Okay. Thank you. All right. Thank you, everybody who participated in this call. We appreciate it, and all the help and everything you're doing for JNF.
Thank you.
Excuse